Welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. I am Brian Fisher, your congenial, convivial, and amiable, as always, host. The White House is out there scrambling today to try to provide some cover for Joe Biden and Barack Obama on this Libya thing where Joe Biden told two bald-faced lies. Now, what they're trying to say, what Jay Carney's out there trying to say today is that, hey, Joe Biden was just speaking for himself and just speaking for Obama. They didn't know. Nobody told them. Now, here's my question. Let's assume for the sake of argument that that's true. How could that possibly be true that the president who's responsible, the commander-in-chief, how could it possibly be true that the president of the United States, the commander-in-chief, knowing how volatile things are in Egypt, how volatile they are in Libya, how volatile they are all over the Middle East, how is it possible that he did not know that there were 230 security incidents in Libya, that there were 11 direct threats or attacks against Western diplomatic outposts in Benghazi in the months leading up to it? How is it possible that he did not know that security personnel were being pulled out of Libya and requests for more security personnel were being denied? How is it possible that could happen? And I would tell you there is only one way that could happen, is we have a president who has skipped 56% of his intelligence briefings. Where would he get that information? That's part of what they cover in those intelligence briefings. Where was he? He was off at fundraisers in Las Vegas. He was out playing golf instead of getting his intelligence briefings. So if he didn't know, I mean, it's fine for them to go out. I don't believe it, but it's fine for them to go out and say, hey, Biden didn't know. He was just telling the truth. They were clueless. They were in the dark. They had no idea what was going on. They were completely out of the loop. They were completely out of touch. And what kind of picture does that paint of the president? This is a guy that has absolutely no idea what's going on under his own watch. He doesn't know. He's clueless. He's out of the loop. I mean, that paints him as somebody that's incompetent or inept. And the only possible way it could be true is because of his own dangerous irresponsibility refusing to get these intelligence briefings. So they know they've got a huge problem on their hands. That Joe Biden is just out there. He ad-libs. He just makes stuff off the top of his head. He comes up with facts and figures and statistics off the top of his head. He said, by the way, last night that that Syria is 5 times as big as Libya. Burp. It turns out that Libya is 9 times bigger than Syria. So here's Joe Biden. He's out there just making this stuff up on the fly, geographical stuff, pulling it out of his earlobe. So it's no wonder that he got the entire Obama campaign in deep water. And so the memorable things are the maniacal grin, the giggling, the snorting, the disrespect on Biden's face, and then this complete lie, 2 of them, on what was going on over in Libya. Well, let's grab some phone calls. I've held you off long enough. Focal Point AFR Talk number to call if you want to join in. You've got an opinion on the debate last night, 888-589-8840. Let's start with Marianne in Lafayette, Louisiana. Marianne, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What'd you think?
Thank you, Brian. I did watch the debate, and I certainly do have an opinion. I feel like I have so much to say I could talk as long as you've talked. But I will tell you this. I was looking at it from the perspective of wondering just how much good a vice presidential debate would do. Mm-hmm. And, of course, you know, the mainstream media is trying to point that up that, well, you know, in this particular election, it's really going to count. But what I was concerned about was the way those candidates just personally presented themselves. Never mind what the media thought. What I wanted you to at least come across and tell you and let the listening audience hear me come across with is Vice President Joe Biden. I would have to say I was just appalled by his conduct because he is 27 years older than Paul Ryan. I felt as though he almost made Paul Ryan look like a child he was scolding of maybe, say, 6, 7 years old. But what I really was just concerned to at least let the listening audience know is Paul Ryan's attitude always was to take the high road. He had, to me, a respectful way as he conducted himself both with Martha Raddatz and with Joe Biden. And what I was concerned about was that Paul Ryan was interrupted many, many times, and Ms. Raddatz as you yourself said, did nothing to try to prevent that. And I'm afraid if Paul Ryan would have done the same thing toward Joe Biden, I think Ms. Raddatz would have put Paul Ryan in his place right away.
Well, to me, Marianne, it was kind of like if it was a boxing match, and I'm fine with people landing body blows. This is politics. As Abraham Lincoln said, it ain't beanbag. I have no trouble with aggressive, vigorous campaigning. That doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't bother me a bit. But here you've got a guy that's landing low blows. He's punching below the belt. He's headbutting. And it's like Martha Raddatz had taken Paul Ryan. She tied his hands behind his back in the corner of the ring, and she's allowing Joe Biden not just to pummel him, but to hit below the belt, and she won't do anything. She's the referee. That's her job to do it. If Paul Ryan does it, at one point he said, look, Mr. Vice President, I think things would be better if we didn't interrupt each other. So he did make one effort to step in there, try to give Martha Raddatz a clue here. Look, lady, this is your job. She didn't pick it up. And Paul Ryan can't do that again because it makes him look whiny. So he really had no choice but to sit there. That's the respectful, mature, adult thing to do. You got to accept reality and make the best of it you can, and that's what he was left with. All right, let me ask you, Marianne, one question, because I've got a piece here about the reaction of women. How did you, as you watched these two men debate last night, as a woman, which of those two men was more attractive or appealing to you as a woman?
Well, first of all, just being not only a woman but a Catholic, I felt Paul Ryan was certainly the most attractive. I really did, from many different standpoints, but I felt his tone, and that's important. A woman looks at a man's tone, Brian, and when I mean tone, I mean the speaking voice, I call it that demeanor in speech. And I felt of the two, Paul Ryan certainly impressed me.
All right, Marianne, thank you very much for the call. When CNN did some tracking last night of men, women, and independents, and they found as they tracked them during the debate that women vastly preferred Paul Ryan over Joe Biden, and independents preferred Paul Ryan over Joe Biden. I got to looking at that. If I'm an independent, I haven't made up my mind yet, and I'm looking at this debate, and I'm trying to decide who to vote for. Which of those two guys is going to be a more attractive candidate? I look at Joe Biden and I think, man, do I want that guy one heartbeat away from the nuclear trigger? I think the answer is no. I'm going with the guy that's calm, that's under control, that's respectful, that knows his stuff. That's the guy that I want with that kind of responsibility. Now, according to CNN, 48% of the voters that watched the debate thought Paul Ryan won. This is CNN. CNN says the people that watched it said Ryan won the debate, 48-44. By a 50 to 41% margin, they say that Ryan expressed himself better than Biden did. And on the likability issue, Ryan won on likability 53 to 43. So people were irritated and aggravated by Biden's behavior. Here's a piece from Katrina Trinko on the National Review Online, basically saying that women thought that Biden was a jerk, just kind of confirming what we just heard from Marianne. She asked for reactions on Twitter, and the consensus that emerged, she writes, was that Biden was seen as condescending, obnoxious, creepy, and generally unbearable. Here's a tweet from Joni Lynn. Biden struck her, quote, as an arrogant, condescending pig. Here's another woman. He's that obnoxious guy that every woman knows at work who always interrupts at the meeting to show how brilliant he is, but has nothing to say. He's the guy no one wants to get stuck next to at a dinner party. Here's another from a woman, an older woman. There were 4 women at my house last night. We decided to watch the debate rather than play cards. They're older but still in the workforce, she says. We were all shocked by our vice president's behavior. We spent 30 minutes talking about his laughing after the debate ended because it was such a shock. Even the solidly liberal woman among us was mortified. Here's what Narina Bellinger had to say. Regarding Biden's performance last night, I have one word: insufferable. He was condescending, disrespectful, dismissive, and downright rude. As a 45-year-old married mother of 5 children, I was repulsed by Biden. I'm not sure why any woman would find Biden appealing. Ryan, on the other hand, in addition to being good-looking, came off as an earnest, serious and caring guy. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Harold in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Harold, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hi, Brian. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
I just want to make a couple of points. I'll watch the debate, and then I'll get off and get your response. I want to start off by saying I think Paul Ryan did a great job. After I watched it, I was a little skeptical, but as times went by, and today I've had some time to reflect on it, his stock has went up with me a lot. I thought he was a class act, and there were a couple things, though, and I wanted to make a couple points, and I'll get off and see what you think. I am kind of disappointed that I feel like he should have clobbered Vice President Biden a couple of times, especially when he was talking about the 47%.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can understand on one hand why he didn't, because, time factor, plus they may just want to leave that alone. But, I wish Governor Romney hadn't have been apologizing, because I think he said what he meant. I mean, there are people that have never worked. I think that Paul Ryan should have brought up the fact that, well, wait a minute, what we were talking about was the Democratic Party wanting to give all this stuff away to illegal people who have never worked so you can buy their vote. I mean, I wish he would have hit him with that, but maybe I'm wrong, so I'll get your opinion. The other thing I wanted to say real quick is on the economic issues. I keep waiting for Governor Romney or last night for one of them to bring up the fact that car dealerships were forced to close because they didn't support Obama. You keep hearing Obama say, I saved GM, I saved all this. Anyway, those are the two things I wanted to bring up. But I think that on a scale of 0 to 10 or 1 to 10, I think that Paul Ryan was a class act for keeping his demeanor. I couldn't have done it. I'm telling you, I would have been berserk. But
yeah.
I think Joe Biden's got a lot of class. It's just all real low. And that's all I want to say. Thank you, sir.
All right, Harold. All right. Thank you. Joe Biden's got a lot of class, all of it low. And I think, Ryan, I understand what you're saying, Harold, about the 47%. And again, I'm not sure either Romney or Ryan's handled that in the best way, because I think the best way you handle that is say, look, we are the party of opportunity. We know you want something better than to be stuck depending on government handouts. And we're the ones that can offer that to you. Back in 2.